Some people think being quiet means being simple. They assume that if someone isn't always speaking up or showing off their knowledge, they must not be that sharp. But that kind of thinking can lead to a huge mistake, especially when it comes to an INFJ. INFJs often don't lead with their intelligence. They don't brag about what they know. They aren't loud in conversations or quick to correct people. Instead, they listen. They observe. They think deeply. And while others may overlook them at first, those who underestimate them usually find out the truth the hard way. The intelligence of an INFJ isn't always logical or academic. It's emotional, intuitive, and strategic. It's the kind of intelligence that picks up on what's not being said. It understands motivations, sees patterns, and anticipates what's coming next. This kind of insight doesn't always come with a loud voice, but it comes with impact. What happens when you underestimate this kind of intelligence? What happens when you assume an INFJ is too gentle, too quiet, or too sensitive to really notice what's going on? That's when the INFJ begins to reveal what they've actually known all along. In this video, we're going to break down 6 specific things that tend to happen when someone misjudges an INFJ. If you've ever been misunderstood or dismissed for being too quiet or too kind, this will speak directly to you. And if you've ever underestimated someone like this, you might recognize the signs of what comes next. INFJs may not confront you right away. They might not even react the way you expect. But make no mistake, their mind is sharp, and when it's underestimated, it doesn't shrink. It gets sharper. Let's look at what happens next. Thing number 1. They read more than you think. The first mistake people make is assuming INFJs are naive or unaware. Just because they're not interrupting or arguing doesn't mean they're not picking things up. In fact, INFJs tend to notice more than most people in the room. They read body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, and small changes in behavior. They can feel tension in a room even if no one says a word. They're constantly absorbing subtle clues. So when someone lies, exaggerates, or acts with hidden motives, the INFJ usually knows. They may not call it out, but they see it. This level of awareness can be unnerving if you're on the receiving end. You might think you're fooling them, but they're already 3 steps ahead, putting together the pieces. They might not have all the facts, but they'll have a strong sense of what's really going on, and often they're right. What makes this even more powerful is how quiet they are about it. They're not trying to prove anything. They don't announce what they know. Instead, they let people show themselves. INFJs will quietly watch the way someone acts over time. They'll spot patterns and inconsistencies. And by the time most people are catching on, the INFJ already sees the full picture. This ability can feel eerie to others. It's like they can read minds, but really, they're just incredibly tuned in. While others are distracted or focused on appearances, the INFJ is watching everything with calm attention. Being underestimated only sharpens the skill. When people don't see you as a threat, they drop their guard. That's when the INFJ gathers even more insight. And once they have it, they know how to use it, not for revenge, but to protect themselves, to set boundaries, or to shift away from unhealthy dynamics. So when someone thinks an INFJ doesn't know what's going on, they're usually wrong. INFJs may not say much, but they already know what time it is. Thing number 2. They strategize silently. One of the most underestimated parts of INFJ intelligence is how strategic they can be. People often confuse calm with passive. But INFJs are not passive. When someone underestimates them, they don't lash out. They don't explode. They observe. They gather information. And then they start making moves behind the scenes. This silent strategy is a form of long-term thinking. INFJs don't just react, they respond. They don't like conflict, but that doesn't mean they avoid it forever. They wait until they fully understand what's happening. They want to be sure of their perspective before they take action. This means while someone is underestimating them or trying to take advantage of them, the INFJ is quietly planning. They think through their options. They consider the long game. They might start building a way out of a bad situation or setting up boundaries that weren't there before. They may even change their entire approach to someone without saying a word. What makes this powerful is that the INFJ won't always show you what they're doing. You might think you're still in control. You might think they're still unaware. But behind that calm smile, things are already changing. Their strategy often involves removing their energy, redirecting their focus, or creating distance from people who don't respect them. They also use their insight as a tool in this process. INFJs don't just plan, they understand how people operate. So when they make a move, it's not random. It's based on what they've seen, what they've felt, and what they've predicted. And when the plan unfolds, it can catch people off guard, especially those who thought the INFJ was too quiet to take control. This kind of intelligence doesn't look like dominance. It looks like grace, silence, and precision. The INFJ doesn't seek to win by force. They shift things in a way that often feels invisible until it's done. So when someone underestimates the INFJ's mind, they often never see the quiet strategy forming in the background. By the time they do, the INFJ has already moved on, or moved ahead. Thing number 3, they disengage emotionally or withdraw. When someone underestimates an INFJ's intelligence, they don't always react in a way that's easy to read. You might expect anger, confrontation, or a clear reaction, but that's not usually what happens. Instead, they pull back. They create space. They disengage. This isn't about being passive-aggressive. It's a defense mechanism. INFJs feel deeply, and being misunderstood or misjudged cuts deep. When someone talks down to them, ignores their input, or treats them as if they're naive, it creates emotional distance. The INFJ may still smile. They may still respond politely. But internally, the connection begins to shut down. You might still see them in the room, but emotionally, they've left. INFJs don't like drama. They don't want to create conflict or make scenes. But when someone consistently underestimates them, they lose trust. And once trust is broken with an INFJ, it's hard to rebuild. They'll start keeping their real thoughts to themselves. They'll stop sharing insights. They'll give short, polite answers and avoid deeper conversations. This withdrawal is quiet, but it's powerful. People who underestimate them may not even realize what's happening till the relationship feels cold or disconnected. The INFJ may still be present, but their emotional energy has gone elsewhere. They have chosen to protect their inner world, rather than keep trying to prove themselves to someone who doesn't see them clearly. Sometimes this emotional withdrawal is permanent. INFJs are patient, but once they feel that someone doesn't value or respect their mind, they'll start moving on internally. They may still be polite, still be kind, but they'll no longer invest in the connection. And once an INFJ stops investing emotionally, it's almost impossible to get that connection back. This is one of the biggest consequences of underestimating an INFJ. You lose access to their emotional depth. You lose their loyalty, their insight, and their willingness to share their inner world. And because they don't make a big deal out of it, you might not even realize it until it's too late. So if an INFJ starts to go quiet, starts to feel distant, or stops opening up, it's worth asking why. They're not being cold. They're just protecting themselves from someone who didn't take them seriously when it mattered. Thing number 4, they speak up at the right time. ENFJs are known for being quiet, but that doesn't mean they never speak up. In fact, when they do choose to use their voice, it often carries more weight than expected. One of the clearest signs that someone has underestimated an INFJ is when the INFJ finally decides it's time to speak, and suddenly everything shifts. Because they're natural observers, INFJs take in a lot before they say anything. They listen, they process, and they try to understand the full picture. They're not interested in being right for the sake of winning. They care about timing, meaning, and purpose. So when they speak up, it's usually not emotional or impulsive. It's sharp, thoughtful, and deliberate. This can take people off guard, especially those who assume the INFJ wasn't paying attention. Suddenly, the quiet person in the room lays out a full analysis of what's really happening. They connect dots no one else noticed. They describe patterns in someone's behavior or explain the emotional atmosphere with striking accuracy. And they do it calmly, without raising their voice. There's a power in that kind of speech. It's not loud, but it lands. People listen because the INFJ has waited for the right moment. And when they speak truth, especially in a situation where they were previously ignored or dismissed, it changes the dynamic instantly. INFJs often use this approach in work meetings, family discussions, or difficult personal conversations. They might stay quiet for a long time, allowing others to talk over them or dismiss their thoughts. But once they've fully understood the situation, they step in with clarity and depth that makes people rethink everything. This ability to speak with purpose is a major part of their intelligence. It shows not just emotional awareness, but strategic timing and social insight. INFJs don't need to dominate a room to influence it. One well-placed statement can do more than 100 loud opinions. People who underestimate them often don't see this coming. They assume the INFJ won't say anything. But when they do, it becomes clear how much they've been tracking and how much others have missed. Thing number 5. They show depth in unexpected ways. When someone underestimates an INFJ, they often do so because they're only seeing the surface. Maybe the INFJ seems too quiet, too kind, or too soft to be intellectually sharp. But INFJ intelligence isn't always shown through debate, data, or strong opinions. It's often revealed in moments, small moments that leave a lasting impact. This could be in a piece of writing they share, full of meaning and emotion. It could be in a comment they make during a conversation that reframes the entire topic. It might come through their art, their sense of justice, or their ability to understand something without needing it explained. However it shows up, it leaves people surprised and even a little stunned. INFJs often carry a creative depth that's tied to their intelligence. They don't always express ideas in direct ways. Instead, they show what they understand through stories, symbolism, or emotional expression. They can explain complex ideas through metaphor. They can understand people through fiction, or poetry. And while it may not fit into a traditional view of intelligence, it's deeply powerful. What's striking is that INFJs rarely seek validation for this depth. They're not trying to impress anyone. In fact, they often hide their talents or insights because they don't feel the need to perform. They might downplay their accomplishments or shrug off compliments. But when you really pay attention, you see that there's a whole world inside of them, and it's rich with knowledge, feeling, and understanding. People who dismiss INFJs based on first impressions miss this. They assume the INFJ doesn't have much to offer, simply because they're not loud about it. But then something changes. Maybe the INFJ opens up a little. Maybe they reveal something they've been working on, or express an idea that hits you harder than expected. That's when the underestimation fades and is replaced by quiet respect. INFJ depth isn't loud, but it is real. It shows up in the way they connect ideas, the way they care about truth, and the way they bring meaning into everything they do. Underestimating that depth is a mistake that often leads to regret, because once you see it, you realize you weren't just wrong. You missed something rare. Thing number 6, they grow quietly and prove you wrong. NFJs don't argue to win. They don't set out to prove people wrong. But when someone underestimates them, something happens inside. It may not look like anger, and it may not show on the outside. But quietly, without saying much, the INFJ begins to grow, and that growth is often the strongest answer they can give. Many INFJs have experienced being overlooked, ignored, or dismissed. They have been talked down to in classrooms, skipped over at work, or misunderstood in relationships. And instead of fighting those situations head-on, they take a different route. They go inward. They reflect, adjust, and start working harder, not to prove anything to the world, but to themselves. They might start learning something new. They might sharpen a skill, develop a project, or dig deeper into a topic they care about. They use that pain of being underestimated as fuel. But you won't see them posting about it. You won't hear them announce their plans. They work in silence. They grow in private. And one day that growth becomes visible. The person who thought they had the INFJ figured out suddenly sees a version of them they never expected. The one they assumed was too soft now speaks with confidence. The one they overlooked is now leading. The one they doubted has become something greater, and they did it without asking for approval. This quiet transformation is part of what makes INFJ so powerful. They don't need outside motivation. The doubt of others doesn't crush them, it clarifies them. It reminds them of their strength, their insight, and their ability to rise above judgment. And when they do rise, they don't come back to gloat. They don't hold grudges or seek revenge. But the difference is clear. Their growth speaks louder than any argument ever could. And the people who once underestimated them are often left wondering how they missed the signs. This is the final thing that happens when someone underestimates the intelligence of an INFJ. They grow in silence, and when you see what they've become, it's already too late to catch up. Underestimating someone's intelligence is always risky, but when it comes to INFJs, that risk is even greater. Their mind is quiet, but it's deep. It's tuned in, aware, and constantly working, even if they don't always show it. Throughout this video, we've explored 6 powerful things that tend to happen when someone misjudges them. From emotional withdrawal to silent strategy, from unexpected insight to quiet growth, each response is rooted in something real, the strength of their inner world. The intelligence of an INFJ isn't just about facts or logic. It's emotional, it's spiritual, it's intuitive, and it's grounded in values that go beyond winning arguments or seeking approval. They may not always speak up, but they see. They understand. And when pushed too far, they move in ways most people never saw coming. If you're an INFJ, this message is for you. Your mind is not invisible, even when others fail to notice. Your silence doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful in ways most people won't understand until it's too late. Keep growing. Keep watching. Keep showing your strength, not through noise, but through action. And if you know an INFJ, take a moment to reflect on how you treat them. Don't mistake kindness for lack of insight. Don't confuse stillness with passivity. Because behind that quiet presence is a mind that remembers everything and is more capable than you think. Thanks for watching this video. Let this be your reminder, never underestimate a quiet mind. It might just be the sharpest one in the room.